Welcome to the Mike Lee Show. It's a new season, and this is the first show on the season. And so I had a new introduction, and if you watched the introduction, you saw a lot of people who are very, very dear to me. My mom was first, and my very best friend was last. It's great to I'm glad to join me today. And I have back one of my crew. I get a little jealous when they show up because I'm usually the only one with sunglasses on. When I invite these brothers, they had sunglasses too. And I was kidding before we started. We had said the last poet said the revolution would not be televised, but I'm not sure now. Now this show is going to be a continuation of my last show on the video, MAAFA 21. Now my guests have seen the video, and there are some parts of the video that I found very interesting. And I felt it was the kind of knowledge and information that the community at large and the black community in particular needed to know. I invite these group of brothers on to discuss the same video and some points about the video because I think it reflects a lot on the movement there because you're with the Israelites.
That's right.
Tell the audience what you guys are about generally.
We are the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge. We'll start out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under the commanding General Yohana. We are only for blacks, Hispanics, and Native American people. We're all about our people. We're all about getting our people out of this hellhole that we're in. We're all about teaching our people their culture, teaching our people who they are according to the Bible. We're about doing things to bring our nation back together. We're the only people on this earth that does not have a nation. We don't have an army. We don't have unity. And that's what we're trying to bring back together through the ISUPK.
Now, I think I first encountered you guys at the Juneteenth event this year.
That's right. Yes, sir.
And you were, as I said, you were on the prior show, and it was really, really great to have you on the show.
It was a pleasure being here, sir.
Because I think that you were able to share some knowledge that many of us, including myself, may have been unaware of.
Right.
Now, I'd like to get back to the video of MAAFA 21.
Okay.
It's I sent it to you guys a couple of weeks ago. At first, I was a little nervous because I sent it off. I didn't get a response, but then the hurricane hit.
Yeah, that hurricane really hit us hard. We have brothers all over the world, and we have brothers in Houston as well. And you know, it hit the city hard. But the brothers in the school, we're doing good.
Okay, y'all all right?
The Lord protect us. But the city of Houston was hit hard. So we're being a refuge for the city because you're looking for Joe Osteen to open up Lakewood so that they can get in the church for refuge. They pay tithes to him every week, but he didn't open the church. So we are going out into the streets. We're giving them food, clothes. We're helping them in a time of need because the leaders, the so-called leaders of our community are not there. So we're letting them know that the ISUPK is here to be those leaders in the community, especially in a time of need.
Okay. Now, I had one question in my ignorance that I'd like for you to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're Yatazaq. This is Officer
Yashamar,
and you're
Officer Ahwanyaahla.
Officer Ahwanyaahla. Why are you referred to as officers? I know it's a war going on.
Right. Well, it's so foreign to us because we don't have a nation, but every nation has an army, and we are a part of the army of the Lord. We say a prayer all the time that's, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. People say that prayer all the time. But what people don't understand is that the Most High is in heaven with his angels, and his angels are called his heavenly hosts, which is his army. And we have to set that same system up on earth the same way it is in heaven.
Okay.
So we are the officers of the ISUPK. We have captains, we have generals, we have a ranking system. Our people are not familiar with a ranking system because we don't have any ranking order.
Okay, I was just curious because I didn't ask you that. I don't think I asked you that last time
Appreciate
you were here. And I thought I was thinking about that
And
this morning.
that's in the Bible as well.
That's because most of what you shared with us last time was biblically based.
Right.
And I hope that there's a person who I'm very friendly, very close, pretty close. I wouldn't say friendly, but pretty close. His name's Pokey. I started out on his show, the Trailer Park Show, and he got a lot of information from my last show with you.
Oh, Christ.
And that's why I had in my mind to have you back again, particularly for this video. And I hope we can show the first clip.
Okay.
It's about abortion being the leading cause of death in the black community, which a lot of people don't know. Is it possible? Okay, here come that clip.
Chemicals in the food and water supply and government control of childbearing were abandoned by most people in the eugenics movement. Despite the fact that many of them openly advocated such ideas, they would come to realize that there was really no practical way to carry them out. But for all their failures, what the eugenics movement had accomplished was to lay the foundation for the next phase of their plan. And this is where they would find the success that they had been chasing for over 100 years.
What would you say is now the #1 cause of death in the African American community?
Heart disease.
Oh, HIV/AIDS.
Diabetes, cancer, AIDS.
I'll say heart disease. AIDS.
From what I heard, it's probably AIDS, you know.
Probably heart disease. I think heart disease.
HIV, gang violence.
What if I told you the real answer was abortion?
Since 1973, legal abortion has killed more African Americans than AIDS, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and violent crime combined. Every week, more blacks die in American abortion clinics than were killed in the entire Vietnam War. And the largest chain of abortion clinics in the United States is operated by Planned Parenthood.
When you read that, when I first saw that, I didn't know that. And I had the impression it may have been heart disease, cancer, any number of things. But when I watched this video and it said that abortion has killed more blacks than all that stuff combined, it kind of really shocked me. It really surprised me. How do you react to that?
Well, in the ISUPK, that's a known fact to us. See, the reason it's so shocking to other people is because the media pushes that AIDS, drugs, heart disease, cancer is the leading death cause. Because that seems more logical to us because we see more of our people dying because of that. But we know and understand how diabolical these other nations are. And we understand that they hate us. And we know that Planned Parenthood is the #1 killer of our people.
Let me ask you this: is there a biblical reference for this type of thing?
Yes, sir, there is. This
is it that your the tenets of your organization point out address this issue?
Go ahead, brother.
To make it even more plain, before we even get to that point, it's all psychological. You understand? So before you get to getting our women to having all of these abortions, it has to be a mental job done on them. You have to become ignorant of the devices of what these people are using against us. As you can see from that clip, no one knew this. Everyone said heart disease, HIV, and AIDS. If you will, pull the precept, destroy for lack of knowledge.
The book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge.
Now, we know that the most highest people are the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. These are the Israelites. We are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. If we make these things known and become more aware, then we can properly fight against them.
Right.
Read, is there some more on that?
Con.
Read.
Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children.
So as you can see, we've forgotten the law of the Most High God. Now our children are being forgotten. We have rejected knowledge, so we have been rejected. We've got to understand that this is warfare on all fronts. The Most High God is a God of war, according to the scriptures. And we've got to learn how to fight physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And that's why the Black, Latino, and Native Indian community should thank the Most High for commanding General Yohana and the ISUPK.
That's right.
Precept.
Let me get to Exodus.
Okay, this is the book of Exodus.
The one you was asking about.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 15, verse 3. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name.
The Lord is a man of war. This is a battle. We don't know that we're fighting in a war. We think that we're just living in life, but these other nations know that this is a war. So what they doing, they are taking our youth, and they've been doing this since the beginning of time. Give me Exodus with Moses.
Come.
This the precept that I want you to you just ask, has this been going on? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They've been doing this all through time. Read that.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 1, verse 10. Come now, let us deal wisely with them,
And that's what they're doing with us now, dealing wisely with us. Keep reading.
lest they multiply.
Lest they what?
Multiply.
So the way to stop us from multiplying is to kill them in the womb. Don't let them come out. Why they don't want us to multiply? Read.
And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war.
So if there was a war, if China was to try to fight America, they read.
They join also unto our enemies and fight against us.
That's why they're afraid of us being as deep as we are supposed to be, because they know the oppression we've received in this land. If anybody come and fight against America, we'll fight with them. So what they do, they cut us at our children. They try to keep us at a certain number. They've been doing that.
Let me, now, I think the principal thrust of the racial agenda and the eugenics movement, Planned Parenthood, and all of that, it discloses that there's a hidden racial agenda that drives much of what goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever had a chance to check out my Facebook page, but I stay in stone cold arguments with guys I grew up with, guys I went to elementary school with, guys I love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're like brothers to me. They say, I don't see the conspiracy. Then they vote Democrat like my family and all those other people who don't have any sense as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
because to me, it's like you've turned this country, in my view, overly simplified, was established on two things: slavery and Judeo-Christian principles.
Right.
You don't have slavery anymore, so why not use Judeo-Christian principles? But it seems as though the black community is just turning its back on those things. I mean, against just common sense.
Do you know why?
You know, they're thinking that woman's right to choose. What woman? If all the black women are dead, what woman is there left to choose?
Right.
Who are you fighting for?
Right.
I mean, really, how are you going to sacrifice, in my mind, how are you going to sacrifice black babies for some Caucasian woman's right to choose? Because as far as I'm concerned, we are not necessarily part of the plan.
That's what you're saying is so true, because we're destroyed for the lack of knowledge of knowing that. That's why it's so important to know that you're in a war. You know, not knowing that this is an actual war is what keep you docile to the battle. Go ahead, brother. I know you had something to say.
Oh, Salaki, and to add to that, you got the scripture?
Yeah.
Go ahead and pull the precept. Christianity, it is the hatred of blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. Christianity, those people who burned crosses on our forefathers' lands and who lynched our forefathers and who put them on those slaves, those were Christians. Christopher Columbus, he was a Christian. They came with these Christian ideas and principles. Now, black people like to say the system has failed. System has not failed because the system was never designed or created to benefit black people.
Right.
The system has always been designed and created to benefit the so-called white people.
The people in charge.
Right.
And it's like, I look at this statute removal madness that goes on now, and I think to myself, you take down the statutes, I don't care what you do. You can't change what's happened. It happened.
Right.
It was terrible, it was inhumane, and we know that. And they know that.
Right.
That's why things changed. Because they suddenly became, even Thomas Jefferson, who he had, the slaves were considered less than human. But when they, in my ignorance, I used to think I had a real hard on for the 3/5 Amendment. How you gonna do something like 3/5 is a man? but I when I looked at it further, I looked at it and I grew to understand that the 3/5 Amendment was actually an anti-slavery provision, because the slave owners wanted to count the slaves one for one for purposes of representation only. And if you read the Constitution slowly, it says for purposes of enumeration, we're going to count 5 black people as 3 people.
Right. And I want to add to
For
that.
purposes of enumeration only.
Right.
For purposes of counting up people for representation.
Exactly.
For political power.
Right.
It's a political compromise. I don't know if there's so much saying that you're only 3/5 of a man. It's saying for political purposes, we're going to count you this way.
A lot of people ask us why we make this statement when we go out here and we say that the so-called white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of. First of all, devil simply means deceiver, right? Now, in that Constitution, they say all men are created equal. For we hold these truths to be self-evident, all men are created equal. Within that same document, they have us listed as the 3/5 of a human being. Well, the thing that we want to push to blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians is that all men doesn't apply to you. It has a specific audience.
Right.
When we read the scriptures, that whosoever, that's the constitution of the blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. It also has a specific audience. Now, if you will read this precept real quick.
It's the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood,
Read on.
but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
Christianity is in high places.
Right.
And Christianity and the Bible don't match up.
Right.
They are the exact opposite. Christianity says that Christ died for everyone in the world. And they go from a misunderstanding of a precept in the Bible. Christianity says we all need to come together and be one people. Well, if you believe in Christ, the Bible tells you that when he comes back, if you believe in this, that he's going to gather the nations and he's going to separate them. The solution for blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians to effectively wage war is to separate. And we've seen it through Black Wall Street. Because when we separated, as a matter of fact, in the video, if I'm not mistaken, help me out if I'm wrong, Officer Ahwanyaahla, one of their first tenets of eugenics was that they would just leave black people alone.
Right.
When they left black people alone, we thrived.
Right.
Remember this, when black people taught black children, 97% of us had high reading comprehension. When we desegregated and put our children into these schools, that's when we started to have, all of a sudden, we have these issues comprehending what we read, and all of our children now need to be on Ritalin and resource. By separating, what we do is give ourselves the edge.
Right.
Because now I spend money with you. Now my children learn from someone who looks like me, and they don't develop this psychological, what's the word I'm looking for, issue to where they see right is right, and what I am is inferior, thank you, to the so-called white man.
I think I have expressed, I know I've expressed it privately, but I'm not sure that I've expressed it publicly, but I will. I ain't scared.
Right.
I have said that I think one of the remedies for us as a people is black charter schools.
Right.
Period. And when I grew up in Lincoln Heights, which was wall-to-wall black, 16,000 black people. We had our own school district, and we had, by all accounts at that time, a thriving community during segregation. But since when I was 8 years old, they said, urban renewal is coming. We're going to get a swimming pool. Okay. Since urban renewal came and you know, all this liberal BS has been, you know, we bought that up. The community is now about, it's gone. As a matter of fact, it was removed from the Google map.
Wow.
And it's now, the area is shown on the Google map, and the streets, you can see where the streets are, but the name Lincoln Heights is no longer there. You got Laughlin, which is on one side, Redding, Wyoming, Woodline, but what was Lincoln Heights is not even identified anymore.
Right.
And the last time I talked to someone wrong, they were talking about ending the village and dividing it. One half would go to Laughlin and one half would go to Woodline. And what's so sad about it is the whole area of Woodline, Evendale, what is now Sharonville, was all at one point supposed to be black. It's designated for black people because Lincoln Heights was the first area on the north side of the Ohio River where black people could own property. And that's where I grew up at. But then my friends from Lincoln Heights, that I grew up with, they're diehard Democrats, call me names. I love it when they do that on Facebook.
Right.
And you know what's kind of funny about Democrats? Democrats, that scripture he just read about, not for the lack of knowledge. That's a black Democrat has lack of knowledge. Democrats are for abortion, homosexuality, but they're all Christians. That's a contradiction. That makes no sense.
Well, my last guest, he turned me on to something new that I'm gonna pick up on. He called them in the Republican Party, we have people that we call rhinos. They're Republicans in name only. And
we have that in Israelites
Apostle Claver says that those black Democrats are CNOs, Christians in name only. They're Christians until, and I think, and I will say, I've said it on Facebook a million times, I'll say it right again right now. I think it's all about liberal whites saying, we like you, we your friend. I don't want no damn friends.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want no friends.
We look for.
I don't mind working with you.
Right.
On a project that we can work on something together. I don't want your friendship.
Right.
I have a wife. I don't deal with that.
We look for equality from people who hate us.
Yeah. I have asked. I have a buddy who's Judge Richard Dinkins in Tennessee. He's a appeals court judge in Tennessee. I've been asking him for 2 months. He says he's fought for equality for 40 years. I say, tell me what equality is.
Really?
He hasn't answered it yet.
He's not.
I put a post up about Clarence Thomas. He responded to that, and I came right back and said, I'm still waiting you to tell me what equality is. Because I don't think he knows what it is. Mm-hmm. I don't think it exists.
Right.
Besides, when I went to the black school I attended when I was growing up, Lincoln Heights, Mr. Holloway was the principal. He was the first, he was the superintendent of Lincoln Heights Public Schools. He later became the first black superintendent of Cincinnati Public Schools. And he was my Pee Wee basketball coach. In Lincoln Heights, he had the school motto was seek not to equal, but to excel. I'm not trying to be equal to anybody.
That's right.
I'm trying to get an edge, if I can get it.
That's right.
You know, I'm not mad at you for trying to get an edge. But I'm not trying to be equal. I like to say, we're all equal. I say, well, if you think you can go down and duck like LeBron.
Right.
Nature proves that what you're saying makes no sense. And just because they put in a document, all men are created equal, it doesn't mean they stay that way.
Right.
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 Before you bring that precept out, what you're saying is so right and exact and so heavy. They use white lab rats in a lab for a reason versus, more melanated lab rats. I'm going to use that word. They use those lab rats for a reason because they want to see what effect these drugs are going to have on a mammal that doesn't have as much melanin in it. It's a scientific fact that you have more melanin inside of you. When you digest your food, you pull more nutrients from it. Also, if you're eating terrible food and bad food for you, you pull more toxins from it, which is why you start to see things like cancers and heart disease show up in our people when they don't follow the dietary laws outlined by the Most High in the Scripture, because that applies to us for a specific reason. So, Lakia, sir, go ahead.
What I'm going to say is that equality is not even in the Bible. The Bible don't even speak of equality. So for people to speak of equality, that's just something, a figment of their imagination. Read that.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 6. Mm-hmm. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
See, the real holy doesn't mean to run around the church and yell and shout. Holy means to be separate, not to be joined together. It means to be set apart from people. Mm-hmm. Read.
The Lord thy God has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself.
So if I choose you to play on my basketball team, that means the only people that's going to be on my team is the people I choose. The Lord chose us to be special unto himself. That's possessive. Read.
Above.
Equal.
Above.
Above which people?
Above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
Equality is not even in the Bible. Because the Bible says that we are above everybody on the face of this earth. That's why they have to hold us down. That's why Planned Parenthood is working so hard to keep us a low people. Because we're the salt of the earth. You can look at basketball and tell that no one is better than us. You can look at tennis. You can look at golf. You can look at soccer. Anything you look at, we are the leading people in that. Because we are above all people on the earth. So they have to kill us at a crazy amount.
I'd like to see this. I have another clip that lasts about a minute. I'd like to take a look at that and then have you comment on that.
Okay, no problem. Oh, yeah.
interests.
Ravenholt said that some foreign governments were refusing to give the United States permission to come into their country.
One book, these researchers claim to have found data showing that this agency was looking for an inexpensive and effective drug to control the populations of foreign countries that the government had classified as underdeveloped. The abortion pill was to be tested in these environments, and if successful, the plan called for it to then be introduced into Black, Hispanic, and Native American communities in the United States.
In 1977, only 3 years after NSSM 200 was issued, the director of the United States Office of Population, Dr. Reimert T. Ravenholt, publicly stated that it was the U.S. government's intention to sterilize 1/4 of the world's female population. According to Ravenholt, one of the driving forces behind this campaign was the need to protect American financial and commercial interests.
Ravenholt said that some foreign governments were refusing to give the United States permission to come into their country and control their population. He said that, in those cases, the plan was to be carried out by 2 private organizations with an enormous amount of financial support from the American government. When asked by a St. Louis newspaper to name the 2 organizations, he said that they were the United Nations Fund for Population Activities and Planned Parenthood.
Among government officials who supported the Ravenholt philosophy of using American intervention to control the populations of foreign countries, perhaps the most powerful were Republican President Gerald Ford, Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, and Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. In the mid-1970s, while serving as foreign policy advisor to the Ford-Rockefeller administration, Kissinger personally helped Planned Parenthood set up an abortion counseling program for Vietnam refugees who were being housed at Camp Pendleton Marine Corps Base in California. This was done despite the fact that the vast majority of these refugees were known to be strongly opposed to abortion, and not one of them had ever requested abortion counseling.
At the same time, Kissinger also refused to hold an abortion training program that was being conducted by the Agency for International Development, which operates under the direction of the State Department. Kissinger allowed this project to continue despite numerous complaints that it was in clear violation of U.S. law that specifically prohibited American foreign aid funds from being used for this purpose.
The commitment that Ford...
Tell me, you know, I had a chance, I watch a lot of educational type stuff on TV, and I taped a show a couple of weeks ago that showed that it was undisputed that life and modern civilization originated in Africa, and over an 80,000 year period, the people spread all over the world. Now, in this spreading, sometimes people didn't come back to Africa and say, hey, the world is round. You know? But it shows that life, you know, that in the most advanced early civilization, which are indicated in ancient history, are not studied conveniently.
Right.
The pyramids are thousands of years old. Now, the people who built the pyramids were not, I don't think they were the same people that were drawing pictures on the wall in caves in France. They knew what they were doing.
If I could comment on that.
Yeah.
The principle of eugenics is based on Darwinism, you know, natural selection, right? When you're dealing with the individuals who want to enforce this eugenics, they say that people who possess recessive genes and traits, now we understand that recessive genes and traits come from mutations, meaning that it's weaker than the dominant gene or trait.
Right.
So their whole principle that they base eugenics on, their whole principle that they base eugenics on is flawed from the beginning. They don't have a leg to stand on, because evolution can't work if you're getting people who possess all recessive genes and traits, blonde hair, blue eyes, pale skin, can't even be in the sun for 15 minutes, saying that they're a superior race than individuals that they got, you know, that they come from, like you mentioned. You made the assertion that all life started in Africa, well, assuming, you know, that that's us, so-called black people that you're referring to us. They can't be the individuals who are supposed to be dominant on the earth if you're possessing recessive genes and traits. You already are flawed.
Right.
So I just wanted to add that to what you were saying.
Well, you know, I think that, I believe that I wanted to do this show because I felt it was important to reach out to educate, inform, and try to enlighten the community in general and the black community in particular. Because I believe that so-called conservative ideas and so-called conservative principles, they're closer to what makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to be in favor of killing the babies of your own people. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Not at all.
Now, they can say what they want about Trump, you know, and I can't say I like Trump. I'm not, like I say, I have a wife. It doesn't make any difference whether I like him or not.
Right.
It's irrelevant.
Right.
But he wanted to defund Planned Parenthood. And, you know, that's good enough for me. You can sell me that every day of the week. But then my Democratic friend, oh, woman's right to choose. Really? Ooh.
Right.
Ooh. And the video very clearly shows that before abortion was legalized, it disproportionately affected the white community. But after it was legalized and the location of abortion clinics, it disproportionately affected the black community.
Right.
But my buddy Lofell doesn't see the connection.
All you got to do is look at where they're located. Planned Parenthood are not located in white communities. They are located across the street from colleges, black colleges.
At least the one is here.
Exactly.
I pass on the way to the station.
They're located right predominantly where all the black kids are. So how is it that it's equal for everybody when it's put in a certain area where a certain demographic of people lives or where they reside? That's exactly what the problem is. They can't stand us, and they're finding any kind of way to get rid of us. Period.
As far as Salaki,
go ahead.
As far as Donald Trump is concerned, there was a war on drugs whenever crack cocaine and all of these different things was associated with so-called black people. Now that the heroin epidemic is starting to take place, and now they're not saying we're going to lock you up for drugs, they're saying we've got to help these people.
Right.
Anytime you start to see this crossover and become a so-called white problem, now all of the sudden, let's disband Planned Parenthood. Now, because I'm sure if we look into the statistics, now it's probably a rise in so-called white females getting abortions now, going into the black community where they have the Planned Parenthoods and now getting abortions. Now that it's become a so-called, the same tactic, this is how amazing the Most High is. The same tactic that they use to destroy us is now being used on them. And men like Commander General Yohana, who set up the ISUPK, he bringing this knowledge out to the community so we can wage war. Not to pick up a gun, because not by strength nor by might, but by my spirit, saith the Lord.
Right.
But to come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments, and us come together, and let the Most High make our enemies our footstool.
We're perpetual hatred.
This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 35, verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, and the time that their iniquity had an end.
That speaks for itself. They hate us. Everything that they do is designed to destroy us. Nothing that they give us is to help us. It is put into our communities to make us weak, to make us horrible people that they want to paint us the picture for us to be. They say that we're drug addicts, but we're not the ones that's shipping the drugs into our communities. We don't have planes and boats to get guns and drugs into our community. They put all of these things into our community, and when we do it because of our oppression, then they paint us out to be the wicked people on this earth.
I remember when I was more actively practicing law in the Virgin Islands, I represented a guy in a dope case. I think I was one of the first attorneys that had really tried a dope case. And in this dope case, this guy, it was a speedboat. And on that boat, they had a ton of 93% pure cocaine.
Right.
Which means if you stepped on that 3 times, as they say, it had a street value of $42 million. And the guy represented was was Colombian boat work. And I learned how they load the dope boats. And what they would be a commitment to ship this cocaine to the States. The captain of the ship would go out in the hills and recruit guys to work on the ship. And when he came back from in the hills recruiting guys, when he brought the crew back, the boat was already loaded, and they leave out. And so the guy represented happened to be able to speak English, Vincent Boxton. And what he said to me was, when I went to Puerto Rico to go to jail to talk to him, he said, when the captain got me, he just brought me down to a boat. All I saw was tanks of gas. And he said, that's all I saw. He said, I didn't see anything. I said, you help load anything? He says, no. And so he says, after they had been out to sea for a couple of days, he figured it was some drugs on the boat. And it was so funny because in the final argument, U.S. Attorney was sitting up there arguing that he should have jumped off the boat in the middle of the ocean. But it was a ton of cocaine. I thought, what? And I decided to have some fun with the case because I believe, you work too hard not to have fun. And so when the captain took the stand, he made the plea bargain. And his plea bargain, what he bargained for is he said, I'll take 10 years in jail. But he held out because he held out a guilty plea until they promised not to send him back to Colombia because they were going to kill him. He probably killed his family anyway. But my guy, I won the case, and he was found not guilty because he could testify. And he said, I didn't know what was on that boat. He said, I didn't have nothing to do with it. He said, he just brought me out of the hills to a boat, said, we'll pay you to ride on this boat, and he took the ride. But it impressed me because and I had fun with the captain. I said, who are you supposed to contact here in St. Croix? He wouldn't tell me. He wouldn't answer. Momo. I said, what was Momo's real name? All I have is Momo. Okay. You just Momo. Okay. It didn't make any sense. And then after that case, I started looking at things. And I found out that there was a case with it. I was on the West Coast somewhere where they confiscated a submarine that had 5,000 pounds of pure cocaine. And I thought to myself, they're not bringing pounds and tons, From what I've heard on the streets, it's keys and things like that. Quarters and 8 balls and stuff like that. There wasn't no tons. And I don't know any brothers that's got enough jack. If you're going to put a submarine in the water, you got to have somebody navigate that thing. Somebody got to build it. It's got to be financed. That's not. I never heard of guys with that kind of jack.
Right. That's exactly what we mean. They hate us, and they paint us to be the most evil people on this earth, but they are the ones that are putting this into our community. We can't do that on our own. Like we're not even that financially stable to do anything like that. Even the top drug lords in our communities don't have submarine money. You know what I mean? Like it makes just like they make excuses for these other nations for everything that they do, but when we do stuff, we have to pay full penalty for it. Just like the dude that drove through the crowd when in what was that? What was that? Charlotte, Virginia.
Right.
The dude drove through the crowd and ran over the people that were protesting. You know what they said? The gas pedal got stuck. They would have never said that if there was a black man driving that car. But being it was a white boy driving the car, it said his gas pedal got stuck. Then he stopped, he put the car in reverse, and he left. He fled the scene.
This is what we want to add about liberals as well. Now, in the video, they say that they couldn't just come out and say that this is what they were trying to do, destroy blacks, Latino, and Native Indian children. They couldn't just say that. So instead, they use things like code words. We're going to take care of the feeble-minded. Well, they still do that today by saying inner city youth. You know that they're making a reference to black children most of the time, or so-called minorities. If they say single-parent home, you know that they're making a reference to probably a black woman's home, right? Well, when they say criminal, guess what also pops into their mind? When they say drug dealer, When they say rapist, a Latino, you understand? You see where I'm going with this? So what Commanding General Yahana has done with the ISUPK is he set us up to be men again, to come back to be what the Most High has told us to be.
Right.
Not what they trying to put in the image of everyone's mind, because the true rape, robbers, and murderers of the face of the earth is the so-called white man.
That's right.
How could you set yourself up as being this ambassador of light and all things righteous when you've stolen everything that you have, including how to set up your country? We understand what the Crusades was about. The Crusades was about them going in and tearing down all these different schools of knowledge. What followed the Crusades shortly after that? Because the so-called white man said, we want to be the epicenter of knowledge. Shortly after that, they have a Renaissance period, and now all of a sudden Christ is a so-called white man? Now all of a sudden God and all the angels are so-called white? We understand history in the ISUPK.
That's right.
Well, I know that in not quite ancient times, that before the great philosophical explosion, great intellectual explosion in Greek happened, it happened after a Greek invasion of northern Africa, and not before. And then suddenly Aristotle and Socrates and all those guys have all this stuff to say. But it was after they went to Africa and came back. It wasn't not before.
Exactly.
And so, you know, the one thing that is kind of true is education is the key. But I believe it's important that we begin to educate our own.
That's right. That's the most important thing.
You know, period.
Right.
And when I look at things now, and Judge Dinkins, this is for you. You know, you say you fought for equality. What I see now is not unequal access to laws and rights and things like that. I'm a lawyer, I know. But I do see unequal families. That's what I see.
Right.
That is the result of this so-called liberal bull crap. And what disturbs me, to the point that sometimes I get a little angry on Facebook, honestly, is because you have educated guys that just can't see it. I mean, Dinks is brighter guys I know. And as I've said before, I've asked him for a couple of months, what's equality? He hasn't told me yet. Because I don't think he knows. He said he claims to have been fighting for equality for 40 years. Because I said, what is it, and how do you know when you win?
Precept.
I don't think he knows.
This is the book of Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 17. As for us, our eyes as yet fail for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us.
We're looking for people to save us that's not even here to save us. You can't be playing for the Rockets and playing against the Cavaliers and look for LeBron James to hit your game-winning shot, and he's on the opposing team. That's what we're doing. We're looking for the opposing team stars to hit our game-winning shot. We can't do that. Go ahead.
This is the book of Psalms, if I may, Mike. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 55. I'm going to read two verses 20 and 21. Okay? He has put forth his hands against such it be at peace with him. He had broken his covenant. 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords.
That's another show I've been thinking about, which is on liberal racism. Because my brothers obviously can't see it. Because me, personally and professionally, I'll engage in conversation with, let you know what kind of nut I am. When I was in college, I heard they had a Ku Klux Klan crossband about 10 miles from the college. I was curious. I said, I sure would like to sneak up in there and see what the hell they talking about. Because I just wonder what they talking about. I'd like to talk to them about it. And so I remember when the election was going on, during the election process, but sort of nephew of mine, Greg Stemmick's nephew. And I said, what do you think about Steve Bannon? I said, I don't think damn about Steve Bannon. He can think whatever he wants. If he wants to think he's better because of his skin, fine. Let him think that. You have a right to be a damn fool if you want to.
Right.
I'm better than you because of the color of my skin. Really? You believe that? That's on you. That's not my problem. You know, everybody talking about racism. I don't like Trump. He's a racist. What, you want to like him? I mean, that's really what you're saying. I don't care if he's a racist. My thing is he going to do right by my people? And by not trying to kill my people, that's right enough for me. That's at the top of the list.
Right. The thing when it comes to liberals is when you have an enemy coming to you waving a flag of opposition, it's easy to identify the enemy. Right. Liberals, they pretend to be on the side of black people, and because of weak leadership in the black community, our sellout leaders pitch these liberals to us and these liberal ideas. Now all of a sudden we're accepting them. The enemy you have to worry about is not the one who comes to you face to face telling you I'm your enemy, but the one who's beside you telling me I'm your friend.
It's the one that comes out the Trojan horse to sit inside your gate.
Exactly. Exactly. And the point that we're trying to make, you know, as men who've been raised up by Commanding General Yohana and ISUPK, is to effectively wage war, you need to identify who your enemy is. That would include the so-called white liberal.
Right.
And you need to do what the Most High God has taught you to do.
Right.
What he has commanded you to do, excuse me.
Right.
And that separate, come back and be what he has told you to be, not what America is telling you to be.
That's right.
You can't be an American and love blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians because Americans stole the land, raped, robbed, and murdered, kidnapped a group of people and enslaved them. You can't be a Christian and love black, Latinos, and Native Indians because Christians kidnapped black, so-called black people, stole the land from Native Indians and Latinos, and now we have a situation where we, like the scripture he just brought out, we're looking for someone else, another nation, to come and save us. Praying to a white image and bowing down to that is blasphemy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, to me, it's just, you know, I like to try to make things make common sense to me. You're saying this person created all my problems, and you're expecting somebody else to fix your problem.
Right.
It's up to you to fix your problem, not your buddy.
Right.
Yes, you say you like me. I want to fix your problem. No, let me do this.
That's like having somebody coming in your house and fixing the problem between you and your wife and your kids. That's what we're doing in our communities. We're telling our neighbors, hey man, come tell my wife to wash the dishes. Tell my son to make up his bed.
Right.
In your own house.
That's right.
You know, we are letting our neighbors run our household. But now, our household, the way we want it to look, we don't know what to do.
That's right.
I don't know if we have time for about. I hope we can see one more clip.
Can I read this one scripture?
Sure.
Go ahead, read it.
This is the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 6, verse 17. Wherefore, come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord.
Said who?
Saith the Lord.
The Lord don't want us being integrated with everybody else. The Lord want us to be separate. That's in the Bible. And that's what we're trying to get our people to understand. The ISUPK is teaching our people to separate from these other nations. If we continue to stay amongst people who don't have our well-being, who's not looking out for us, best interest in heart, thank you. If we don't do that, then we're gonna always be destroyed as a people. We have to separate.
When I look at what you guys say, to be separate doesn't mean that you have to hate somebody.
Exactly, that's right.
I can just stay away from you. I don't have to like you. You don't have to like me. But I can stay on my side street, you can stay on your side street.
You know a perfect example of that? The Chinese community.
That's right.
The Chinese people have a Chinatown in every major city and state. And they hire their own people. They take care of each other. They don't integrate with everyone else, and they do for their own.
Right.
That's how we need to be. We need to take care of our own. If you want to eat some soul food, come to our community, come spend money, or we can put a business in your community. But we don't have to mix in with everybody to be wealthy. The wealth is amongst us.
Right.
If we come together, we'll be the majority and not the minority. Go ahead.
I was just saying, coming together with your own people, the motivation behind that is we're really talking love.
Right.
They say it's a thin line between love and hate. Well, their hatred for us is causing them to come together to some degree. Well, if you want it to be about love talk, let the love for your people cause you to spend with your people. Let the love for your people cause you to build schools for your people. Let the love for your people want you to set up a system to benefit your people, the blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians who are the children of the Most High God.
That's right.
Right.
I think we're running out of time. It's really a pleasure and a privilege to have you guys on the show to share your knowledge and your experience and your point of view with my audience.
It's a
And
pleasure.
with me. You know, I used to watch wrestling in the '80s. I used to always like to see Superstar Graham, and they used to interview him and say, "The pleasure interviewing you, Mr. Graham." Mr. Billy Superstar Graham said, "Pleasure was all yours."
Well, it's most definitely a pleasure and honor to be able to work together with a brother. You know, anytime that we can do something to educate our people, we have a lot of things going on in Texas right now, especially with Harvey. But we will most definitely make room to come and speak on your show anytime.
I want to thank you guys for coming up all the way from Houston with the challenges that you have there. And I really appreciate you finding the time to come. And I want to thank you very much. And I'll probably have you back again because I got a show on liberal racism that's been stirring in my system for about a month now.
We ready for it.
So I got to get it out of my system.
All right.
The only way I can get it out of my system, get on here and talk about it. Well, thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anytime you need it.
All right, thank you, sir.
I'm not gonna do